Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Josh Leesman XP, or JLXP, or the Josh Leesman Experience. I'll have to figure out which one is actually the best shorthand for it, but that's at a later time. If you watched episode 1 with TL and Golden Guardians with Mark and Freak, thank you. If you didn't, you probably should, but I don't hold grudges for long. This one is going to be on Cloud9 and Dignitas, and I wanted to talk quickly about the two guests that I have on for these two episodes because it's not the usual suspects. For C9, I have Tyler Stack, who is a observer for us on the LCS, but that's not why he's on this pod. It's actually because he is a lifelong Cloud9 fan, and I thought it would be very interesting to get the perspective of someone who has so passionately followed a specific LCS team for so long. I actually really like the way the C9 section panned out, so take a listen to that one. We talked for at least 10 minutes on Sneaky and kind of what that means to a C9 fan. I found it really good to have that conversation. And then for Dignitas, I have the player who played more splits with Dignitas than any other player. We got KiWiKid back. He's been in QA for skins for Riot for a while. He's been kind of dark on social media, but I thought it would be cool to get him back, reminisce a little bit about the old Dignitas days, and then get his kind of on-the-spot power ranking for where he'd figure out they would go. Spoiler, we both have him kind of at the bottom of the playoffs, but you'll have to figure out why by listening to it. So check out C9 and Dignitas. Hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome back to JLXP. I'm Jatt here to talk about C9, and for this team, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So rather than having a familiar face that you've seen talk about all the teams all the time, I have Tyler here. And for most of you who probably don't know Tyler, he's been an observer for us since 2015, but a C9 fan, what do you say, for your whole life?
How you doing? My whole life. Yeah, doing good. Thank you for having me.
When did your C9 fandom start?
Gosh, let's see. Probably right around the time, actually like right when I started watching the LCS, I would say. Was that
the spring of 2013 or was it later?
It was actually a little bit later.
Or sorry, summer 2013.
It was later than they, right before or right after they had their historic run, basically. They're like 25-3 split. Yeah. So at the time I was a sweaty jungle main, trying my hardest to get as high up in the ladder as I possibly could. And I was looking for VODs and stuff to learn more about the game. And that was when I kind of got tuned into the NALCS as like sources for, look at this crazy gank. And it was an easy way to find that kind of information. So at that time I started looking around and C9 just started to be the team that when I looked at junglers that I liked in the LCS, Meteos just popped out like immediately. Yeah. And as I got to know Meteos and the rest of the team, I just fell in love with them. They were like the meme lords. They were the one team that was, to me, felt like they had the most personality. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, they were a good team. So it was the perfect combination of everything you want. Like great personality, really strong and good team, easy to follow. Yeah,
25-3 when they first started. Spring split champions in 2014. High's lung disappeared. And then that was the last title.
Yeah, the collapsed lung.
But they stayed good and relevant actually every single year since then, highlighted by Sneaky, who's been the through line for all of it, making 7 straight Worlds appearances. And every time C9 does something good or bad, I feel like everyone in the office comes to you for your take, which is why I thought it would be cool to have you on this podcast. And we are recording this on January 16th. It's going to release sometime next week. So just so people know the timeline, because we finally have some closure to this Sneaky saga that's happened during the offseason. Because I remember you and I talking about this even before the new year, where we're saying like they did the Welcome Zven video, but they haven't said anything about Sneaky.
Yep.
And I was all ready to talk about like this, like what's the uncertainty, like when's he going to come back? But I was kind of sad watching the video. I'd like to know how you feel after 7 years of Cloud9, where he says, hey, I'm not going to play on C9 next year. I'm not even going to stream for them, but I'm going to be an advisor. What are your just thoughts on Sneaky?
So the video hit me right in the feels. That was because I guess I was kind of in the same boat as you where, we talked about the Welcome Zven video, and because there wasn't anything solid on Sneaky, and even I think around that time Sneaky made a statement about him and Jack had talked a lot about what they were going to do in the future, but as of now, he was still just staying on C9. So to me, I felt like, oh, that was the closure. Like, you're just staying on C9 and maybe you'll sub, but you're just going to stream for C9.
Yeah.
So when this came out yesterday, it was like a gut punch to me because I had this like dream of, okay, so here's what's going to happen. I'll tell you what was going to happen.
Yeah, what was going to happen with Sneaky and C9?
So 2019 spring, we were going to have Zven and Vulcan come in, okay?
Or you mean 2020 spring?
2020 spring,
yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
2020 spring. Zven and Vulcan were coming in, brand new bot lane for C9. It was going to be a rough and rocky start, of like, oh, new ones that they haven't played together. Oh, it's going to be like so tragic. And then like maybe C9 ends like the split in like third place. They go to playoffs and, it's like they don't win, but maybe they get to finals or something. And then summer, Sneaky's back and Zven is benched. And then it's to Worlds again with Sneaky. And that was what 2020 looked like for me.
Yeah.
So hearing this was like, what happened? The plan was that, So
your plan.
That was my plan. Yeah. But that's kind of how I felt. It was, but I also still feel like, yeah, there was some closure on this, but it still feels so nebulous to it. Like just so, because he says these certain things of like, I won't be playing for C9, and I get that. And then he's like, but I will be advising, and I'm still an owner, but I won't be streaming for them. And it's just this kind of, it just feels weird that, if you're still going to be associated with the org, you're still going to be advising them. It feels weird that you're not streaming for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a lot to take in to figure out.
I agree. And I've been thinking a little bit about it as well because Sneaky's a player who, in part because he's been around for so long and had so many Worlds appearances and won 2 LCS titles, players seem to respect him a lot.
Yeah.
At least publicly. I do also think there's part of it because he is such a huge brand and has so many fans. If you're going to say something bad about Sneaky, you better be ready.
Right.
Right? You better be ready to take on his fans because they'll come back at you. So I think that gives him a little bit of an aura. But he's a guy who's played for 7 straight years. And I remember some features that we did on Sneaky like even 4 years ago where really he was just a kid who wanted to play video games.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't really want to think about all this other stuff like career plans or business or branding. And like you said at the start of C9, no one was doing that and everything felt really natural. And even still, Meteos and Sneaky will maintain large fan bases wherever they go. You'll if Sneaky plays in the LCS again for another team, you're going to watch him.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think you're still going to be a C9 fan. So you're kind of splitting your fandom.
Oh, yeah. No mistakes. I am a C9 fan through thick and thin. The one thing that C9 could do to make me not a fan is if they hot swap their entire roster with TSM or something. That would be the only way. That would be the only way.
Bjergsen in here, broken blade.
Then I'd be like, okay, well, it's been good, boys, but I think we're moving on.
Yeah, but continue on Sneaky a little bit. The consultant C9 role, I think, is short term. I think C9 did this with a lot of their other guys. Like, remember when High was CGO?
Yeah.
Right? I think it's just a Jack, old-time player wanting to keep some type of famous player. And also the player, because all they have known from C9 to this point, they're just kind of doing it. Mm-hmm. But I think Sneaky is going to take this next split to stream. Mm-hmm. And that's when he will find out, because he's always liked streaming. And he's also kind of thought about, well, it's because he's still a pro that he stays relevant as a streamer. Because we've seen a lot of other guys like, I don't know, Dyrus or The Odd One, who were huge streamers and players, retired and slowly either lost their passion for League or lost their passion for streaming as much. And my theory is that Sneaky is going to actually experiment with streaming full time to see how he likes it. And if he doesn't like it, he'll join a team. Because from the sound of it, he could have joined an LCS team. Yeah. He just couldn't join the LCS team that he wanted to join because he wants to go to Worlds.
Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate. There was a pretty long time, and I think I got into, I wouldn't say heated, but I think I got into a debate with someone in the office about Sneaky's. Okay, it was probably heated. I'm sorry.
Fighting.
I said, "What did you say?" And I stood up on my desk. I think I got into a discussion with, gosh, I wish I could remember who, but it was like sometime last year about Sneaky's competitive drive with someone in the office.
Because that's been in question because he's such a memer and he streams so much.
Exactly. And there was a time, like, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, where I kind of had the same thought of like, well, I don't think Sneaky has that competitive drive. I think he's just good and he likes playing in the LCS and this is fun for him. Mm-hmm. So I always kind of had that question too. But I remember one night a couple of years ago, I was watching his stream and someone donated with like a pretty memey donate, but they asked him like why he still plays in the LCS as kind of a joke, but he took it pretty serious and said he has a strong competitive drive and he might not show it all the time, but he wants to win worlds. He wants to win titles here. He wants to be a professional player. So when I saw him talking about that on stream, it immediately dismissed like any thought that I had that, oh, he just likes to have fun and joke. So when he said in this statement too, when he said he still has that competitive drive and there just wasn't.
And he even said it's not a permanent retirement.
Right. Yeah. And to me, I think a lot of people could look at that really easily and just be like, okay, sure. But you're gone. But I think it's kind of similar to like the Doublelift situation when Doublelift just, left for spring. Right. Yeah. And then comes back and he's just as competitive as ever. I would like to see Sneaky show the competitiveness a little bit more. I think he kind of like shields himself a little bit and doesn't want to show it. But I do strongly believe that he's a very competitive player, and I think he really does want to win titles here and win worlds. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him come back in like a year or so. It's going to be really interesting to see what team he's under, because
C9.
Please, because I still think Sneaky is one of the best ADCs in the region. And I know that I think especially this Worlds, he got a lot of flack. And I just like, when I look at that, I'm like, I feel like a lot of players go through this though, where it's, maybe they aren't the best player all the time, but they're consistently very good. And that's what I always felt about Sneaky, is I don't look at him to be this like Doublelift where it's like, oh, look, I popped off super hard, but then Victor one-shotted me and we lose the game or something. I looked at Sneaky as like, I'm going to generally do very well and not going to be the reason my team loses. Maybe that happens once at Worlds, but I don't feel like that's enough to disqualify a player as like a good AD.
And on Sneaky's competitiveness, I completely agree he has a very strong competitive drive. And my reason for that is because of how much he defends himself.
Yeah.
The Sneaky and lane memes, anytime someone's like, even when the broadcast last year was bringing up how bad he was in lane, like on stream, he's like, the casters don't understand what's happening. Like, we had to play against Yuumi twice, and like, we don't play around bot lane. Like, look where Sven Scaring goes. So these are all the things they talked about as a team, and he cared about his image, but more so just because like he actually does want to win, and he doesn't want people talking down on him, because he knows that oftentimes community perception of a player will have a teammate read Reddit, and that can move into that negative cycle. With that being said, we all love Sneaky. I think he deserves to be in the LCS if he wants it. I'm not completely sure that this is bad for C9's win-loss.
Sure.
I'm not sure on that yet.
No, I see.
Because even with all of the compounding factors, that he did a good job defending with the champ select moving around him, his laning phase has never been a pure strength of his. He hasn't been bad in lane, but he hasn't been top of the lane. I think he's been an elite team fighter basically the last 6 years. Like, that's where he really shines.
Yeah.
And then he also shines as someone who will just always stay calm and give that presence to C9 throughout the mid and the late games, knowing that this AD carry's not going to screw up in the late game and you can count on him. So kind of looking a little bit forward to 2020 and back at the end of 2019, aside from Worlds, was a really good year for C9. They were 14-4 in Spring Split, got a playoff bye, lost semifinals to TSM 3-2. Summer Split, actually a worse record, still got the playoff bye at 12-6. Beat CLG, lost in the finals to TL 3-2. 2.
Yeah.
So their only domestic best of 5 losses were actually in Game 5, and they made it to Worlds with the highest World seed they had since 2013 because they didn't go through Gauntlet for the first time.
Yeah.
Then Worlds happens. We don't know what happened in boot camp because they're not starting their MVP. Sneaky's not even touching 80 carries. He's playing Heimerdinger. They bring in Deftly for the last game when they're already eliminated. They moved between Blaber and Svenskeren. Like, it was time to move on. But at the same time, like, if you look domestically, that roster was the second best team. Did you feel like it was time for them to actually do like a real shakeup? Because that's what they ended up doing.
I mean, I'm always gonna say no. It's gonna be really hard to sell me. So
you wanted to run it back?
I wanted to run it back. Yeah, I wanted to run it back. I think that this roster didn't have enough time as a full unit to go. And it's something, honestly, that I wish a lot more LCS teams did. And that's one of the other reasons why I really like C9 is because I feel like they generally don't just do these kind of like panic switches. And I wouldn't say this one's necessarily a panic switch, but I wanted them to look at this performance and then be like, we can see clear errors and let's go into spring with this. And maybe if spring of 2020 things are still looking shaky. I mean, I know you got to get contracts while they're hot and everything, right? But maybe if in spring of 2020 things are looking shaky, then let's talk about shaking some stuff up. But I wanted to see the run back. I think that this was a good team, and I think domestically they could definitely win a title with this roster.
They were a game away.
They were a game away, right?
I even talked about it on the TL podcast. They were like a moment away. In Game 4, when they're up 2-1, Jensen kills himself on LeBlanc. C9 moves towards Baron, and then they just don't finish Baron.
Yeah.
They peel off for like a kill, and then like, well, I guess we should reset then. And then they lose the next 2 games.
Yeah,
they were so close.
It's hard to describe the feeling that I have while I'm observing Game 5 of C9 versus TL. Like for the
Sonateric game, that one.
Every time.
Because it's happened a lot actually. If you go back in history.
Every time, yeah. Because I feel like the TSM 3.0 that was in gosh, when was that? That was a while ago actually, right? That was like 2018.
Well, so there was a TL 3.0 in 2018.
TL 3.0.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the 7-man roster. Like, we're gonna throw in Golden Glue, and then there was the 2017 finals, and then there was also a 20. Oh man, so many times.
There's so many times. That's why I was talking to you a little bit before about how I was talking to one of my friends, and he asked me how many titles does Sneaky have.
Yeah.
And I think like right off the top of your head, most players want to go, oh, at the very least he has 3, or at least he has 3 or 4, because he's been here for 7 years, and I know they've been in the finals
all the time,
right? And it's like, oh well, the truth is he has 2 titles, and it's just heartbreaking because you go, but I know they've been in the finals, like every time. So
every offseason except for this one, they've always received the honorary title for going furthest at Worlds.
Yeah.
Like there was that annual thread of, does anyone else think Sneaky greater than Double Lift because of quarterfinals appearances?
That's always been my go-to too. I feel like whenever I'm here and it's like everyone starts memeing on me or like giving me looks because C9 just lost like summer split, I'm like, okay, well, we'll see when C9 goes to semis this year in final or in Worlds, and TL is like in a pretty free group struggling and talking about how like international play is so tough.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wanted to run back to get back to that. I feel like the one thing I really wanted out of the team as a whole, I think top lane Licorice is great. I think, just more experience probably, but I still think he's probably one of the best top lanes we have here. I think Svenskeren, MVP jungler. I think Svenskeren is great. Niski I liked before he even joined C9, so when I saw that we picked him up in replacement of Jensen, I was like, great. That I was afraid who our next mid was going to be. And then I look at like bot lane and I'm like, yeah, that might be the lane where I ask a couple questions of, maybe you guys could win lane a little bit harder sometimes.
What do you think of the Zeyzal versus Smoothie, whose bad laning phase is it conundrum? Because what I observed is sneaky Smoothie was actually pretty good in lane. And then they do sneaky Zeyzal, they start winning more games, but I remember that as when sneaky in lane made a comeback. So I want to say that like Zeyzal's laning is pretty weak, and that's one of the reasons I'm more skeptical of EG's bottom lane. Mm-hmm. So I'm never quite sure how much of the laning phase was sneaky or how much of it was just Zeyzal not being a great laner.
That's interesting. I haven't really thought of it that way, because I generally think of Zeyzal as... I never really think of his laning play, just because I feel like outside of lane he's so good that usually I am blinded to the fact that maybe their lane went so bad, right? And almost, yeah. So I mean, it's versus laning versus late game, where I feel like I do feel like Zeyzal is very good, and I was incredibly shocked at how good he was when he first joined the team too. Especially when his very first play in the LCS was like a tragic level 1 where him and Blaber and I think Keith all died. I remember it was when Reaper did
they brought in the whole sub squad.
Yes, they did that whole sub squad.
Everyone except for Licorice came in.
Yes,
basically. And
it was like his first game ever, and I was oozing with confidence as I usually do. And he comes in, and it's like this super tragic level 1. I remember he was on Nautilus. They walk up to like blue buff to do this invade, and I think like 3 members of C9 die, and I was just like, we need to put everyone back in. We need to this needs to change.
I think you and every C9 fan said that at that moment.
I was so nervous, but then just seeing him actually becoming this, I feel like I say this every time we talk about every role in C9, I go, I think probably the best in the league, but I think Zeyzal is great. So when I looked at Smoothie, I didn't necessarily dislike Smoothie, but I don't remember having that moment with Smoothie when he was on C9. I don't remember going, oh my gosh, like Smoothie's insane, or he just kind of felt normal-ish to me, like a good support, but not special. And maybe that's because he was better in lane. Yeah. And he was better at winning in lane, but maybe the late game stuff, where I think that's a lot, players tend to, and viewers tend to remember like the late game flashy plays, I think, more so than the like, oh, well, we're up 30 CS, but there aren't any kills, or maybe we got first turret and that's it, which are really important moments, but they're hard to recall and think of flashy. So I could see that.
Yeah, it's been quite a road. And I think the interesting wrinkle with C9 in 2020 is that they had the option to run it back if they wanted, because they had everyone under contract until basically 2021.
Yeah.
So, so getting to 2020 now, the overall power rankings I did, where I surveyed 16 people, had C9 just below TSM between 2 and 3, but I put them second. And the thing that puts them second for me is the fact that they had a lot of agency over these moves. They had a bunch of assets, right? They've wanted to put Blaber in for so long. Like, you can just tell. They there's really so much. They protect this guy. They didn't let him go anywhere else. And they said, you know what? We've had him on the bench for so long. Like, we have to give him a starting slot. But this Svenskeren guy, like, we can't just bench him. He won the MVP. Yep. So they, allegedly, we don't know for sure, like, got a bunch of money from EG for Svenskeren in that package, and then used that to get Vulcan and Zven. So my vision for this 2020 C9 team is stronger early game, hopefully more reliable, like, bottom lane that won't fall behind. And if Vulcan is everything he's been kind of hyped up to be from the shadows of this actually great support, then they'd end up being really good. And that has the like main concerns for C9. I have a list of them coming into 2020. The heart of the team, though, is kind of gone. Svenskeren was the jungler that could win when you had a mid-game lead, and Blaber was the jungle that lost with a mid-game lead. That was the story of 2019. And Sneaky's calming veteran presence is just completely gone. So they've clearly prioritized Blaber, didn't let him go anywhere else, and they've opted for this new, unproven lineup. I know you already said, like, run it back, but what are your thoughts on what I just said about their 2020 plans?
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing about C9 Jatt. You'll never, ever get a recording of me saying anything bad about the team. So 2020 is going to be a great year. Yes, I wanted to see the run back. But one thing that another great reason why I've like always loved C9 is I feel like their ability to take new players and seamlessly integrate them into the team. Mm-hmm. I would argue that there's no other org. Completely unmatched by any other org in the LCS. And while I think that losing Sneaky and losing Zven, and I think you might have a point that like the heart of the team seems to be gone a bit. Mm-hmm. I think that they've done such a good job of bringing in these new players that to me, I feel I was really worried about Zven. When I first heard that he was announced, I was like, everyone else I felt okay about. Honestly, I think Vulcan is a great support, and I know he's really only been on one team, that we've seen on the LCS, but I still think he's an amazing support, so I'm not too worried about him. But Zven, I was like, this guy's coming from TSM, and I just started having flashbacks of like all the weird plays that happened with him on TSM, and I was like, oh God, what are we going to do? But then I remembered Sven Skaren came from TSM, and I had the exact same feeling about Sven Skaren. I was literally like, why did we dropped contracts for Sven Skaren? Yeah. And I was completely blown away. And then within like a split, I was like, yeah, that was the best. That was a great decision. So I agree with you that I think this change probably gives C9 more dominance over the lanes that they have. Yeah. I have a lot of faith in Blaber, and I think a decent amount of that is because obviously C9 has so much faith in him.
Just unbounding faith.
I mean, he did have that stint in the summer split where he came in and played the remainder of the summer split, right?
He was like 8-1 or 9-1 as a starter, and then it wasn't until this last summer split that he lost a few games with some throws.
And when they came into that summer split, he stayed with them until the end, and that's when they went. Was that the split where they went from like 10th place to like 4th?
It was
right?
10th to finals. Yeah, it was actually Blaber was paired with Jensen, and Sven Skaren was paired with Golden Glue.
Yes,
and it wasn't until last year that they kind of they unlinked the mid jungle, and they only swapped the junglers barely.
Yeah. So I feel like I see that there is a lot of confidence in Blaber. Mm-hmm. I would like to see, and I think maybe C9 has identified that maybe their early game is something that they're struggling with, and they want to be more proactive and they want to be more aggressive. Because I think that used to be C9 of old for me, where I remember they were like one of the few teams in the LCS that did things. I feel like I remember when like I first started here was when we had those crazy metas of like Kog'Maw mid and stuff that were just like 45-minute games where nobody did anything, like lane swaps. And I remember still thinking at that point in time that C9 was a proactive team. They would still try to do things early game and make moves, and then didn't always work out, but I always appreciated that they were like trying to make something happen. Yeah. I think maybe they started to see a little bit too much of that return to staleness maybe, and maybe this is why they want to get these like aggressive laners in that are more proactive, because they know that that's successful for the org.
And a lot of times when you're trying to be aggressive and you're not winning lane, you just lose. Like that's the fastest way to lose in a game.
Like, I appreciate C9 for wanting to keep games short,
Yeah. I think that's the direction that the game is going. I think especially ever since 2018 World Championship, when average game time went down a few minutes. Yeah. Like I feel like if it starts creeping up, that it's going to be tried to be brought back down. We saw that even this last year with the Corki Azir meta. It's like games are getting too long because of Corki and Azir. Like it's okay if Corki and Azir are played, but not if they make the game really long.
45 minutes of just farming, right?
Yeah. So you touched on a lot of good stuff there. I just want to talk a little bit more of like Zven's story. Yeah. Because I find it really intriguing how he's now been the replacement for Doublelift and Sneaky. Like this guy who Niels, when he started, basically burst onto the scene by making semifinals of the 2015 Worlds, then joined G2 to make like the first G2 super team. Could never really get it done at Worlds with that team. They did make finals at MSI once. And then there was that whole best in the West thing, like him and Mithy with this arrogant swagger.
Yeah, that was sick.
That was a great hype video. That was the peak of NA's Ben.
That was the best he did in NA.
Yeah, they got in the cab and they talked about being the best.
And they're like, okay, you can calm down now because that's all we needed you for. Thanks.
Yeah. And then he hasn't been back to Worlds in 2 years, right? So he kind of opts into these high pressure situations, and he's still one of those players that grinds a huge amount. League is completely his life. He really doesn't seem that interested in streaming or like the big social media push of it, but he does want to win.
Yeah.
And that's the direction that this C9 team, I think, would kind of need to move towards. I think that Licorice would be the front man of the future for 2020 if this team is to succeed. And I'll say it now because there's a lot of uncertainty, and obviously this could be wrong. I think this is an upgrade from 2019.
I think that that's fair.
I think this will end up being a better C9.
Yes. I will both agree and disagree with you just because I am unable of actually saying that I don't think Sneaky and Zeyzal are the same level of Zven and Vulcan. But
yeah,
it's tough. I do like the change, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I do think that this spring with the format changes, I think that the spring gives C9 a lot of flexibility to not have to worry so much about what this means.
So the schedule announcement was a few weeks ago. If people are listening to this and are a little bit confused, there are a few schedule changes. I mean, the same number of regular season games are played. Some of them will be on Monday. So there's actually only 4 LCS games a day on Saturday and Sunday, and then 2 on Monday for Monday Night League. The playoffs is 6-team, but getting a playoff bye is more important because there's a double elimination aspect to it, and championship points are gone. So the winner of spring goes to MSI. Then summer is what actually seeds into Worlds with an even more robust playoff system that can still get up there. And I know with talking to Jack in past seasons, it's kind of what he's always wanted.
Yes, yeah.
Because he really he loves, meddling is the wrong word with it, but he loves experimenting with the roster and trying to figure out who's right. Because even going all the way back to the 2018 when they threw the sub squad in, I don't think Jack and Reaper ever expected that to be the best team.
No, definitely
not. But they
not.
thought, hey, these are 4 guys with a lot of potential. Let's see who pans out. And the answer was Zeyzal and Blaber.
Yeah.
Right? And now they still have Blaber on their team. So I think that's what they were doing. What is your biggest concern in 2020? Like, if something derails this team, what do you think is most likely to derail this team?
That is tough. I want to say I have 2 probably minor concerns with the team. And I think one would be touching back on what you said about Blaber, where I think, to me, Blaber feels very hit or miss.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe to a lot of people he feels very hit or miss.
Seems a little.
Yeah, there's just something about it where it's like sometimes he comes in the game and they just lose horribly, or like they just win really easily. I think he's still a concern to me. I have confidence in him because clearly Reaper and the org has confidence in him. So that tells me that he's definitely showing them something aside from just, he's good in scrims. Because I feel like that's a case with a lot of players. Yeah. So there's something different about Blaber that they've seen that makes them want to keep him. So I want to see what that is, though, because I still haven't been fully sold on it. I've seen he is a great early game jungler, but he sometimes even in that he can just lose the plot a little bit. He can just like accidentally do one bad, slightly aggressive play, and it's like, oh, that's it. But I do like the early game aggressive junglers, and I think C9 has wanted that for a long time, especially when they tried to get like Rush. I think that was what they wanted with Rush. So I think that they still really want to find that jungler who they feel like is just a perfect early game. I'm still a little bit afraid of his mid game and what his mid game and late game look like when they don't win the early game, as you said.
Yeah.
The bot lane is just, I think anytime you put 2 new players who haven't played together in a bot lane together, you just have concerns because you're just like, well, I hope that they just play well together. I had a little injection of confidence in that bot lane recently when I found out before Christmas break Vulcan and Zven were playing in Korea.
Over 1K LP each.
Yeah. And it was in like a record time. It was in like a couple days or something they did that.
Smashed.
And I've been like watching their Twitters and like seeing the way that they talk to each other. And I feel confident about them, but it's still, I haven't seen them play yet. So I still want to see what that translates to on the stage. But they seem like they've already just fallen straight into the C9 like trap of just making fun of each other, but really lightheartedly. And I still think that that's something you don't really see a lot from other orgs bot lanes. It's like you sit somewhere between double lift, like maybe making his support have a panic attack, and then like I don't even talk to this guy, So it's like it's somewhere in between there.
There was the Cody Ole like bromance that we had for a little while. Like, I can tell him anything.
And that was actually
really sweet.
Yeah, that was a bot lane too that I was super hyped for. I was like, I love these guys. I want to see more of this. So I was really sad to see them like split apart. But they already look like a bot lane who has fun together, and they show that they have fun together and they can do well. So I want to see that on stage. That's my minor concern, is I just don't want Zven to do some of the stuff that he did in TSM where he just like loses his mind and like throws like a Baron fight or something. And it's just like, don't do that, please.
You had me think of an analogy when you were talking about Blaber. And I wanted to get this in before we wrap up. So I want to hear your reaction to this. I think, and maybe this is a bit of a stretch, but Blaber's early game, I think, could be analogous to like young Steph Curry.
Okay.
Okay. So basically,
I'm following you.
The whole story of the NBA for the past half decade has been everyone taking way more threes.
Yeah.
And things that used to block that is how a bad three was like a cardinal sin. Like if you took one bad three and airballed it, it's like, you're going to the bench. Yeah. Like, get out of here. You're not worth it. But over time, they realized like, hey, like with high volume, this is actually the optimal way to play.
Right.
So maybe the optimal way to play is like Blaber. He takes these big risks. They're going to work most of the time, and that's going to give you more victories than anyone else if you can perfect it and you're willing to fully buy in.
Yeah.
But like inting level 3 jungle plays is like a cardinal sin.
Yeah.
So most junglers don't do it, even if it's worth going for.
Yeah.
So if you all in Blaber, tell him he's not going to get benched and just unleash him, maybe you find the next Steph Curry.
Yeah,
okay,
that's beautiful, actually. Yeah, it's not an oversell. I think that you just sold it the way it should be sold. But that does make me think of one thing that I think actually does seem very exciting about the change in bot lane and with Blaber is I think we all expect going into this season that Dragon is going to play a very heavy part in the game, especially with the whole Elemental Rift changes.
Yeah.
I think one thing in the past that might have caused some problems with C9's ability to stay on track with dragons might have been that their bot lane was a little bit more passive and their junglers were aggressive. So it was hard to get their bot lane on board with let's go for this dragon right now. Maybe what they're looking for in an aggressive bot lane like Zven and Vulcan with Blaber is like we do what you just talked about with the entire bot side of the map towards dragon.
Just take shots.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, maybe we get Dragon Soul and that's game. Like maybe that's the plan is if we're hyper aggressive in bot lane and the meta is still centered around who gets like the Dragon Soul or if that plays a huge part coming into 2020. Yeah, maybe that's just how you win. Just, you get enough dragons and
also,
the team most aggressive
if the jungle doesn't get changed, I think it's right up Blaber's alley. So
no farming, right?
well, most roles get stronger as the game progresses. The jungle is the opposite.
Yeah.
It starts really strong right now, and then your experience is low. Like, did you do enough in the first 10 minutes? Yes or no? And Blaber always does enough in the first 10 minutes. It's just the next 20. So maybe the cards are aligning a little bit.
Yeah. So curiosity-wise, why is C9 second on your list as opposed to first if they do seem to have kind of all the right things for 2020?
Because TL's roster on paper looks unfair.
Okay.
That's like you can. Okay, they have Doublelift and Core DJ. They're 2 MVPs.
Okay.
They have Jensen, who best or second best mid laner in the league. They have Broxa, best or second best jungler in Europe. They have Impact, best or second best top laner. It's like the Warriors the last 4 years. You're trolling if you don't predict them. I'm not saying that they will win it for sure.
Right.
But like it just
It makes the most sense, right?
I feel like you're trolling. If you
they have 2 members who used to be on C9, so clearly they are going to be one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah,
right?
that's the reason. It's the C9 heritage.
I mean, Impact. Really, I felt like Impact hit his peak in C9. I think whatever
as the Shield.
Yes, exactly. Whatever he did with SKT, like that's all great. But when he got on C9, I think that's when he hit his peak. And same with Jensen. Like we raised him and gave him away to the rest of the world. So
yeah. Well, Tyler, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for
talking about C9 in 2020. That'll do it.
Yeah, sick. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Jatt. We're talking about Dignitas, and to help me with that, we have KiWiKid, who maybe you haven't heard that name for a while, but did you know, Alan KiWiKid, that you played more splits on Dignitas than any other player?
Well, I thought that was past by now, but I guess that makes sense because, yeah, I guess not much has happened after me. Sorry, Dick, but it's okay. Your time is about to come. Don't worry.
Yeah, you played from spring 2013 to spring 2016. And we're going to do, the way we do these, just so you know, is we have a bit of an intro of the org and the history of the org, and then we get into the 2020 season. But Dig's history is actually like super unique in the sense that they actually got relegated in that 2016 spring split.
Yeah, and
you got relegated in the 2016 split.
And then I think we got relegated again.
Well,
wasn't it?
What ended up happening for you is Dig got relegated.
Okay.
Then you played summer on Energy.
Yeah.
Then you retired. That was it, right? The end of 2016 summer, right? Yeah, that was it.
Yes.
Pulling back
I think
almost
that was
4
it. Holy
years.
shit. Yeah, I just like blocked that. I blocked like the last year of my career off just because, man, it was bad.
Yeah. What have you been, just before we get fully into Dig, like what have you been doing since then for the people that, follow LCS?
Like after Dig and Energy, including Energy?
Just after Energy, like, because you're at Riot now. That's one of the cool reasons we're able to have you on this podcast.
Yeah, I was like happy to go back to school. Like I was like, cool, like that was really fun. Like I'm glad I took off, that break year. And it was perfect because when I left initially, I was like, hey Dean, I'm gonna take a break. And he was like, okay. And I was like, but do I keep all my credits? Like, yeah, if you come back after 5 years. So
that was Texas.
Yeah,
right?
That was in Texas. That was UT Austin. And then it was perfect because I was like 5 years. Let's go. I got all my credits back. I'll probably have to take some like retests, but that's fine. I can study for those. And then my old manager, and I think it's also my hiring manager, Chris Rockoff, he reached out to me and see if I wanted like to join Riot.
Yeah.
And I was like, not really. Like I don't want to. I don't want to play this game anymore. Like like because most LCS retirees, if that's even a word, go to like playtest team. Okay. And that just wasn't something I was interested in after playing for so long. Like, I mean, I love the game, and I just don't know if I can like play like 70 hours a day, or 70 hours a week anymore. But he's like, no, you can like try out to like maybe make a champion or like help release things, or there's options for you. It's like, sure, that sounds just interesting. Like maybe I'll do it. And he was like, yeah, if you don't like it, like you can totally like leave. Like that's fine. He was like he actually really knew what. I don't know. He was like in my brain because
he had some.
Yeah, he knew
sense.
what I needed to hear, or like what I need. I don't know. Maybe he just has done it a lot. Like he's a good guy. But there was a problem with that too, because if I did take the job, which I did, I'm gonna lose all my credits I built up.
Because
because that was
too many years or
exactly.
Something.
But eventually, I came in, I interviewed. I really liked everyone. It was like actually most of the people here that drew me in, like. Because I've never really worked a job before, and I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I don't think a lot of people do for their first job. But I don't know. People were just so welcoming and nice. And damn, I just felt like, people are scared to like fail on the first job. Or I guess just fail in general. Sure. I felt like I was really safe here. So I just decided to join. I liked it a lot. Yeah,
it's awesome. You're on Skins now. You were telling me just before we started the podcast. Yeah. I asked you, like, do people call you KiWiKid or people call you Alan? Because I see you around. I'm like, hey, Kiwi. And I'm like, hey. But you introduce yourself as Alan.
Yeah, I think the people who knew me before tend to go Kiwi. And then the people I met here that are new or that I formed like a new relationship with that they call me Alan. But
yeah,
sometimes they even know me before. If I knew them before and they knew me before, it's almost always Kiwi.
Yeah. If
not, it's like a 50-50, depending if they knew me or not before. And then if they didn't know me before and I didn't know them before, it's Alan. So I don't know. I prefer Alan because, trying to make... I don't know. I just prefer Alan. I don't know if there's a reasoning for it, but it's fine if they call me Kiwi. It's not a strong preference.
All right. So that's cool. We're going to go back to Dignitas because the history of these guys is interesting. The fact that they stuck around in LCS for so long, got relegated, actually got back in the LCS in the summer with Apex, didn't make it into permanent partnerships, and now are back again. Like, what's going on there?
Dude, they just do not... They do not want to die.
They're persistent.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a good reason for like the logo change because they're just trying to like reborn. Like eventually it might just, I don't know, they'll become a Phoenix next time. But hopefully they don't get relegated somehow. I don't think it's possible anymore. So yeah, maybe they're here for good. Yeah.
And every time I kind of see you in the halls or something, you continue to follow LCS, which is pretty cool. So like moving into 2020, there are a lot of stories for these guys because it was weird at the end of 2019. When we knew that Dignitas had bought Clutch and that they were going to become Dignitas in 2020, Clutch changed their colors, right? They went from red, they went back to the kind of black and gold of Dignitas. Right. It was very much like Digniclutch. Then they made this run because like Clutch Gaming was 4th place in their first split, 9th, then 4th again.
Yep.
But then made it to Worlds, and it felt like there was this trajectory that once they rebranded to Dig, we're going to carry into the 2020 season. But you look at what's happened, and Hooney's the only guy who's come back. Even the coach is gone.
Yeah, like, I don't say this in a bad way, but they're not the same team as a team that went to Worlds.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
No one can really say that like with a straight face or like reasonably. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what they can do. Like Aphro, like he's been playing for so long, like, and Froggen too. And yeah, of course, Hooney's always a pleasure to watch. And then, they have Johnson. I don't know much about him. And then Grig, who's like, I don't know. I still think he can shine, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we can focus in on them a little bit more because Hooney, we'll put it to the side a bit. We know he's kind of like this, I'll say a known quantity of being inconsistent, right? Because sometimes he'll super pop off and sometimes he won't. But he was good towards the end of last split. And the added wrinkle is a lot of teams are having kind of unprecedented visa issues. Just like it's happening to all of the teams.
Yeah, that sucks.
They solved it a few years ago and how to get it, and apparently things are kind of going wrong this year.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, things are just tightening up.
We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it.
But it's just
let's not do that.
Hopefully Hooney comes in quick. Let's. I have an opinion of this team that is higher than most. I asked like 16 people to do a power ranking, and Dig came out at an average of 7.6.
Right.
So it's like, hey, they're kind of soundly below playoffs. I put them 5th because I'm a little positive on this team. So hear me out. Yeah, sure. Well, I'll ask you what you have if you can just like try and place them amongst the LCS.
Holy shit, you're asking me to do a power ranking on the spot? You didn't even prep me for this. What the?
I told you we're talking about Dig.
Yeah, I know. We were talking about Dig.
You don't have to do it right now. We'll talk about for the whole podcast and at the end. All I want from you is let me know if you think they'll make playoffs, and we'll do that at the end.
Playoffs is top 6, right?
Playoffs top 6. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna just put a pin in that and keep thinking about it.
Put a pin on it.
Let's talk about Grig, because this is a guy who almost whoever I talk about, they say, "Oh man, like they got Grig." Like he was so bad on stage in TSM, but I also think that there was an initial reason why TSM picked him up in the first place. And he had bad stage performances. And to me, he was really unlucky throughout his time on TSM because he had, especially last year in the spring, like he had some wrist issues that put him on the bench for half the split. And TSM's plan was, okay, as soon as Grig's wrists are better, he's back in. but they were rolling with Acadian, so they ended up keeping him until the end of spring. Then they make the run all the way to finals, and like just the relationships and what that does to a player's head to like constantly be on the edge of coming in and out.
Right.
I don't know. I just feel like it was a really bad situation.
But doesn't he kind of have that now because Acadian's on Dig Academy, right?
Yeah.
So that's just
they have them both again.
Yeah, like
that's a meme.
Like, yeah, because I'm not sure how much the situation has changed. I mean, I don't know. I mean, of course, all orgs work differently, right? Like between Academy and LCS, like switching off, and the fact that he has like Acadian again, like. There's an argument like, oh, he's used to having him, so maybe he's more comfortable now. Or the other argument is he has Acadian again. What if he plays like he's gonna always scared that he's gonna get replaced by Acadian? Because if you're playing like you're being scared of being replaced, you're not gonna make like plays, which is like what a jungler needs to do because you're the X factor most of the time, like the first 20 minutes or even more. Like you're the one who like creates like the ripples that your team rides on to win the game. So if you're playing scared, like it's a good thing because maybe your job's more secure because you won't die as much, but you might slowly lose your team the game. And it's like people, like analysts are catching onto that way more, like more and more because they're like, why is the team so stagnant? And then they'll like pinpoint who like should be like making a call or being aggressive at the time. So I don't know. I just hope he plays like he's not scared to get replaced, but I mean, that's a big ask. Like everyone,
that's true.
Like, unless you're like Double Lift or Bjergsen or people who don't have a backup or like who are super secure.
Hey man, you played like you weren't worried about getting replaced. You were never scared.
Yeah,
you died all the time.
Okay, I'm a special case. I should have been playing like I was scared to get replaced because let's not dive into that too much, but I should have played like that. I'm sorry, my team.
I mean, there were games where you would carry just because you weren't scared, and then there were games where you would carry the other team.
I
mean,
the fact that one of my highest viewed highlight is TSM picks on KiWiKid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on YouTube that's like one of the first things or top things that happens on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, okay, let's not digress too much.
Okay, I'll find that later, and we'll do that. All right, so we both hope that Grig can play with like he can't be scared, and I think that's what happened. And I think some of that comes in from playing with Bjergsen or playing with the TSM brand or playing with all the pressure.
I mean, it's a meme, and we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes, but I mean, there's a reason why like memes are memes and stereotypes are stereotypes because it generally like. It seems to happen on the outside. Yeah. Because I remember Grig was a really aggressive player. Like anyone who's played solo queue knows how aggressive he is. Like you have to be super aggressive in solo queue as a jungler to like get challenger. Like,
and he was rank 1.
Yeah.
When he started on TSM initially.
So then like he eventually, that TSM jungle mode. Like I hate to say it because I hate when people always make these generalizations so much, but I mean it seemed like he was getting more and more passive. Like I don't know, maybe. Being a TSM jungler breaks the soul, but
well,
it's okay. Dardock, you got this.
Yeah, Dardock will be fine. Yeah, he'll be fine. Sven Skaren was good as well right after he left TSM. I think Santorin has done well after leaving TSM as well. So to me, it's like the TSM jungler comes under so much criticism, but for Grig, I feel like the majority of people have written him off, but I'm doing Jatt.
Dude, I hope he kills. I believe in him. Like, let's go. Like, please, you can do it, man. Yeah. If you're listening.
Because he has players who have been successful before.
Right.
Kind of all around him aside from Johnson, who we're just going to touch on really quick. You said he didn't know that much about him. I can tell you. Yeah,
I just know he was Johnson. On TSM Academy and like he doesn't really have a big stage track record,
he barely played Academy.
Right.
But he has or had because they did a season reset.
Right.
4 accounts in the top 20 of Challenger.
For NA?
For NA, sure.
Okay.
But all of them were like 65% win rate or more. Like he was basically solo queue god 80 carry. He was like rank 2 or 3, and then he had another one at 6, and then 11, and then 14. So there's a chance he's actually really, really good, but just hasn't been given a pro opportunity.
Yeah.
And
let's see it.
80 carry, I think, can port more from solo queue than a lot of other roles. 80 carry is
definitely the most moldable role.
Yeah.
Like, because if you have 4 accounts top 20, like, your
flexible.
mechanic, your mechanics should be really good. Like either there's some kind of smart component of AD carry that I don't know of that's carrying you to top 20.
Probably not.
4 times. I'm really doubtful of that, but maybe. Yeah. So yeah, like hopefully under Aphroo's leadership and like just playmaking that they can do good.
Yeah, that's the next thing with Aphromoo is I think a lot of people kind of feel like he's washed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like a lot of people thought maybe he was washed after CLG when he joined 100 Thieves, and that was actually his MVP split when they went to finals.
Yeah.
So like there's always that glass half full read for me when Aphromoo joins a new team.
Right.
Because I think he's someone who can definitely get a little internally frustrated at his environment or kind of what isn't said, and over time that'll build up and he'll just kind of get demotivated, and he has that kind of somewhat silent personality, it feels like. But if you switch to a new team and have a new AD carry who all of a sudden it's like, wow, this guy's actually really good in lane,
right?
Maybe that re-energizes him.
Yeah, I think Aphro kind of has like the same like playmaking mentality as like Huni, for example. Like like they want to shine, right? And I'm pretty sure support meta kind of switched to like you do got to dial it back a little bit. Like you just need to like shine behind the scenes, like be like the best, I don't know, cameraman or whatever people do, like, stage hands. I don't know, whatever they're called. Sorry.
Why's that?
I'm lacking. I don't know. It just seems like the game really just slowed down and people learn to rotate way faster. So those windows of opportunity that you think you have aren't really windows of opportunity to kill. They're just really just a chunk, and you just can't all in on stuff as much anymore. And maybe that's why Aphro died a lot. Like last year. But I mean, I still think he's a great player. He can definitely, like you said, on a new team, just be a superstar, I think.
Ooh, see, okay, you and me are on the same page.
Yeah,
with Dig, you're moving
people
them
have
up
bad
a little
splits.
bit to the
like,
playoffs.
People say wash so often, just because they're just not. They're just spectators. I'm sorry, like that's what you guys are, and people would like to just throw out that word so often. For old people. Sorry, for old players.
Speaking of players who've been around for a while, I want to talk about Froggen a little bit because, interestingly enough, this team, and I know this is a stretch, but they have two former MVPs. Aphromoo was the 2018 Spring MVP. Froggen was the 2014 EULCS Spring MVP with Alliance. Because this guy was mega dominant in like 2012.
Right.
And pretty much since he's come over to NA, he hasn't found success. The first time he made playoffs was actually Spring Split of last year with Golden Guardians. And I think Froggen is someone who will always defend himself. Like he still speaks about how he's still got it and how he's still one of the best. And I think some of the criticisms of him in past years have been warranted where, hey, he played the game the old way where he's too worried about his own lane and his own performance and not really worried about the game, and therefore it's hard to work with. But I think at least last year it looked like he was a little bit more proactive to me. Like he's still someone who really, really, really loves the game. Like he loves playing. He loves talking about it.
He still streams and plays just as much as he does before, which is like crazy because
he's 9 years in.
I know. And like I play like recreationally sometimes, and I'm just like, dude, I'm a one and doneer.
Like you played for 4 years.
Yeah. I don't even scratch the surface to Froggen. Like for real, holy shit. He probably has like the most games played like in the world. I'm not even joking. Like I really want to like I'm about to go back and look it up because
you'd have to find all of his accounts because so many of these pros have
God,
like
I
mean, a Nivea Kid. It seems like he's usually playing on a Nivea Kid.
Yeah.
So
but
at
it's
least
too
that
hard to
account's
track
got a lot.
like total games or hours of like 10 seasons, because
especially because he's going to have like an EU account and all this other stuff.
But
it's a lot.
Like I would be willing to like wager a lot on his hours because he plays a lot.
Yeah, I'm just going to see like even last season on a Nivea Kid, it's like he played, over 100 games of just Karthus, right? And then like just he's going at it, and that's on top of the scrim schedule because a lot of NA teams last year opted for more scrims instead of more solo queue, unlike some of the other regions. Like they do 3 scrim blocks on most days instead of 2, which is scrim blocks are 3 or 4 hours.
Scrim
has
blocks
that changed at all?
Scrim blocks back in my day were like 3 hours.
Yeah, it's like you
or
play.
Like sometimes you play best of 3s.
Yeah,
and generally it's like 2 scrim blocks a day. Well, that's when I was. I don't know if anything's changed, but it was like 2 like 3-hour scrim blocks and then analysis after. So that's already like 8 hours. So
yeah, and sometimes like right after a game you'll do like 20 minutes of audio review and then you go back to a game, etc., and cycle through it.
Yeah, sometimes you do that. Sometimes people want to leave it all until the end. I think I don't know. I don't want to guess too much, but yeah, something like that.
But in your day.
Yeah, my day, people did VOD review after every game sometimes, but then I think as I was leaving, they were transitioning to just save it till after because then you can get more games. Yeah. Because you can do VOD review on your own time, right?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I think is interesting is like the Damonte question with this team, because Damonte, he's actually on the academy team. Yeah, funnily enough.
Right. So he could be playing instead of Froggen, I guess. Right.
Well, it was this kind of odd off season. So this team was 4th in summer and went to Worlds.
Right.
And we don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes, whether or not it was like they couldn't re-sign some of the players or not. I don't think they wanted to re-sign Lyra because I think he was not doing well. I think maybe like Cody Sun and Vulcan were people they should have re-signed or tried to re-sign, but Vulcan was like a hot commodity.
Yeah, I mean all like these like re-signing talks and what goes on in the off season. Like you should know too. Like there's so many different factors. Like maybe someone's unhappy secretly with someone on the team, or like, hey, like I don't want to be on this team if this person leaves, or like maybe there's just more money for another player on another team. Like there's so many things that can happen that speculations is always fun. Like there's a reason why we do it. Yeah. But for preseason stuff, unless there's like concrete like info, it's kind of all a real big stretch or just a shot in the dark because you never know what someone's motives are. Like that's just life.
Yeah. Also, they don't have Artemis anymore, but they still have ThinkCard as far as their org goes for coaching. They had ThinkCard for a lot of last year.
Right.
So, okay. I've given you the rundown. We've talked about it for a while. Okay. I'll give you some of the other teams.
Okay.
Tell me when to stop. Like, tell me which team you think Dig will finish the regular season better than.
Okay, yeah.
TL. No. We got TSM, C9, CLG.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let's do it quick. I have to like roster. There's been so many roster swaps. I can't even.
We're not even going to go like TL, TSM, and C9. I think while it's possible that one of those teams go down, I don't think Dig is above them. I think I think the question comes in then. So we got Hunter Thieves, which is going to be
Someday Meteos.
Someday
Meteos, which is a new guy.
Yeah, Cody Sun and Stunt.
That sounds hard.
Okay, hard to beat.
Yeah, hard to beat.
Okay, and then we got EG, Kumo.
Okay.
Svenskeren.
Okay.
Jizuke. Okay. Bang and Zeyzal. It's like half of C9.
I think they're beatable.
Okay, you think Dig
I think Dig can beat them.
See, that's where I'm at
go.
too.
Okay.
That puts him 6th. I don't even need to read the rest of the teams.
Really? You're not going to read the rest of them?
Okay, I'll read the rest of the teams.
That's
fine.
Not fair.
No. I'll read the rest of the teams.
Dig and
You're
the
right.
teams, to be honest.
And it's unfair to the rest of the teams. I'll read you the rest.
Okay, read me the rest.
All right, we got Immortals with Soaz.
Okay.
Xmithy.
Okay.
Ica. Alltech.
I don't know who that is.
And Hakuho.
Alltech.
Ica is a player from the LDLC Team LDLC. It's a French league.
Oh,
yeah.
I only know LDLC because of Counter-Strike, but
Oh yeah. Well, he also played on Elements for like a hot second in the EULCS in 2014. Alltech making his return to the LCS, and Hakuho. Apollo's a sub on this team, so you might see him at some point.
Yeah, they can beat them.
Dig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They can beat
good
them for sure. I mean, I'm not sure if I'll place bets, but maybe just because I like my boy Alltech, but like personally.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, I think they're beatable.
Okay.
I think they can beat them.
All right. We got two more. We got two more. Golden Guardians and FlyQuest. So Golden Guardians, Haunser.
Yeah.
Closer.
Yep.
Golden Glue.
Golden Glue.
FBI.
And Keith.
And Keith. Yeah. The role swap.
Yeah. Okay. I think they can beat them.
We're on board.
And then
FlyQuest, Viper, Santorin, Power of Evil, Wild Turtle, and Ignar.
Okay, they can probably beat them too.
All right.
Yeah.
We're in there.
Yeah, when you like draw it out like that, they can actually get playoffs. Like, I think it's a matter of trusting each other because Froggen, Huni, Aphro, like they've all tasted like the stardom. Like they've all at one point in their careers, like even like long periods too, they've been like looked up to and like, holy shit, they're fucking crazy on fire.
Yeah.
So like if they keep trying to chase that too hard, that's how you end. Like I'm just gonna straight up tell you, like that's actually how you end. Like you need to trust your team. Like if you're getting ganked, you know, a lot of people in solo queue when they get ganked, they're like, man, this guy's camping my lane or ganking so much, like, and they get frustrated. But that makes sense because they don't really trust their team, which can happen, right? But in a environment where you trust your team, you should be thinking, holy shit, this guy's coming my lane so much and he's not killing me at all. Like, this is great. Like, my team can play like there's no jungler. Like, this is so sick.
Yeah.
Like, that's called space creation. I mean, Soaz and Darian, they pretty much, like, are the fathers of that.
Yeah.
In my eyes. So, yeah, that's, like, that's a feeling that you don't have to do that for just top lane, too. Even mid lane or bot lane, if you feel like that, you should be, like, happy because, like, look how much shit I'm doing for us. Like,
look how much the other team is focusing on me.
Yeah,
like, don't get mad at it. Just be like, hey, this is something that's happening.
And it's just a matter of trusting your team, and, like, I hope they can get that and just play a little more calm because, I mean, Froggen plays pretty calm. He's just a farm lord. But mostly for Aphro, for top and bot lane. Like, just trust.
I hope
you guys can do it.
I hope Froggen's not a total farm lord on this team, because I think that's kind of what they need to succeed. Him and Huni need to find ways to, I think it actually could work if Huni just comes mid a lot, actually, because Huni loves to move. Right. And if Froggen is always having lane dominance, then like that works really well for the map. But,
yeah. I mean, I don't really know the meta because, I mean,
honestly,
we won't really know the meta.
A lot of the teams think they know the meta right now, but it's going to change.
It's going to change. Like, people... Yeah, that's what's really fun about watching like the spring split because people are always like, man, why do I watch spring split when no one can even get worlds from it and summer split, like it's so close to worlds. But yeah, I don't know, just watching the new season 10 like meta, like the new season stuff just happen is pretty cool, especially upon all the regions. You can always compare them and people eventually like take stuff from other regions and as we've been seeing, it's not just from Korea anymore. Like Koreans are taking stuff from Europe and even NA sometimes, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, KiWiKid, thanks for joining me. Or Alan, my apologies.
Hey, we've known each other before I worked here.
Okay, so that's the KiWiKid
so you can say Kiwi or KiWiKid. But you can also say Alan. Like, I really, even though I said I prefer Alan, I really don't care. Like, cool. It's just synonymous to me at this point.
Dignitas in 2020, we'll have to see
if we make playoffs. Let's go, Dig.
Yeah, let's go.